Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be going over some of the most common acquisition methods for advisors and ranking them based on key metrics so you can start to determine what makes the most sense for you, see if you're implementing the right systems, or see some of the benefits and downfalls to the different types of client acquisition channels. So if you're not familiar with myself, my name is Joe. I'm the CEO and founder of Amplified Advisors, where we've helped over 100 advisors nationwide scale their firms using modern acquisition methods. And on this channel, all we talk about are different strategies that we utilize to help our advisors grow. We walk through interviews and case studies with the advisors that we have helped grow, and we want to provide you as much value as possible. So if you are starting your practice or if you're trying to scale your practice, you're utilizing the right systems in order to do so. So let's dive into this video and start breaking down these acquisition methods. So we're going to be rating these methods on 6 main components, right? The first is going to be the investment. What does it cost to actually implement this system and to get it going? The second is going to be the time and management. How much time do you actually have to invest to keep this going, to drive results? Does it operate on its own, or do you have to spend a lot of time manually doing things? Then we're going to look at the scalability. How large can we take this? Can this help us get from a few million in assets to, maybe 10, 20, 30 million in assets? Or can it help us scale a firm from a few hundred million in assets all the way to a billion plus? And then we're going to look at the saturation, right? How many people are utilizing this system? What are the results they're getting? Is it saturated? Is it competitive? What that looks like. Then we're going to dive into the ROI. What is the typical ROI? Does a little bit of cost or investment generate a large outsized return, or are we kind of just breaking even, right? And then obviously the quality of prospects that you're going to get from these different acquisition methods, because every acquisition method drives a different type of prospect. It nurtures them in a certain type of way, and it creates a certain type of client that you work with. So you need to find out what makes the most sense for your practice and what your goals are long term. And so this is for the fourth quarter of 2025 going into 2026, the best methods that we have seen from all of our data, from working with all of our advisors, and what is working best for advisors to scale predictably going into this next year. So to start off, we're going to dive into cold calling. Now, this is an age-old method for advisors to scale, right? And now, let me, before I rate this, explain these different sections, right? It's pretty standard, but S tier means it is an amazing method. It works very well. It checks a lot of the boxes on these qualifications we're looking at. A tier is it also works well, but it's not necessarily the best, right? And let me preface, these things change. What worked maybe a few years ago might not be working as well, or what didn't work as well is now working extremely well. And so with cold calling, where I rank this is actually at a C tier. Now, the reason being is because yes, does cold calling work? 100%. It's one of the most proven methods for growing any business. The problem is it is very hard to scale cold calling. You either have to train a team of SDRs, or you yourself are going to be attached to actually completing that action. But if you're attached to it, one, that takes away time from actually growing the business, working on the business, not in the business. And two, if you want to start hiring SDRs and scaling that system, you're going to have to spend quite a bit of money for hiring staff, for training, and you still have to buy those leads. Another thing here is it doesn't attract the right kind of prospect, right? You are chasing after prospects. You don't have that level of authority when they then decide to sit down on the call. It's why a lot of junior advisors, a lot of people that start at big box firms will start by hitting the phones because they don't have the authority, the experience. They're just trying to get whatever they can. So I rate this as a C. It's not necessarily a D tier because it does work. It's just not going to help you scale a firm rapidly, nor is it very scalable into the long-term future unless you have a giant team, right? Now, with cold email, it's going to join its counterparty cold calling, right? In the C tier. Again, you're chasing prospects. Now, the one benefit here is it is a little more scalable, but it doesn't nurture prospects as well as cold calling would. That's kind of where it balances out within that C tier. You can set up a very large scale cold email sequence, but again, prospects come in, you're chasing them. Even if you have a unique offer, you can do this well, but for advisors specifically, it does not work very well. Now, another very common one that we are starting to see is the organic content. And I thought about this one because organic content does have the ability to be a great system for scaling your firm. but it usually works. It works in tandem with other systems. And the problem with organic content and why I'm not putting this in an A tier, which I consider, is because the amount of time and not necessarily luck, but you have to have the algorithm's favors or odds in your favor, right? So that is why organic content really sits at that B rating. Now, there's about 10 advisors in the nation who are successfully doing organic content to scale at a rapid rate. And if you look, they've been doing organic content for 5 to 10 years and now have taken over that market. It's a great system and they're finding great success with it, but it is very hard. It takes a lot of time. You have to post very consistently. You have to have unique content. And additionally, the amount of prospects you get for the amount of views is very low. So it just takes a lot of effort and time. And if you're trying to grow rapidly, if you want something that works more instantaneously, right? The long-term benefits of organic content cannot be beat. If you become the number one figure in a space with organic content, you will scale very rapidly, very large. But it just takes so much input and it takes a lot of algorithm favoritism for you to get to that point. The next one we're going to dive into is drip campaigns. Now, what are drip campaigns? This is essentially where you are providing some value or nurturing on old prospects, maybe new prospects. It's a little bit of a blend of cold email, right? But you're not just saying, hey, book a call or I want to chat with you. You're trying to give a little bit of value to get prospects to engage. This is actually a very underrated method for acquiring clients. One, it is not very expensive, right? As well as it's very scalable. And for that reason, we are putting this into the B tier, right? The prospects you're going to get, again, I am not in the game of chasing prospects. We're in the game of attracting prospects. And so with drip campaigns, you still are slightly chasing them, but it's better than cold email where you're just trying to get them to book a call and you're not providing any value or showing your expertise. So drip campaigns are an underrated way if you have an old lead list or if you have a list of leads and you want to drip on them with value, get them to engage and kind of work them into your pipeline that way. Very underrated method that a lot of people do not utilize. Now, for seminars, the age-old acquisition method, one of the greats. Seminars are actually going to be put into the A tier. Now, seminars are good old reliable, right? You get a group of people who want to learn something, right? Yes, you will get plate lickers and there's ways you can avoid that, but you're getting this group of people who are interested in learning about a specific topic. You are able to have their attention captured and show them value, identify pain points, and create that gap to get them to want to speak with you and work with you, all while doing it one to many. So your time is leveraged. You're not just doing one-on-ones, but you're rather sitting with a group of people. Now, the only downside to this method is one, it's not very scalable, right? You can only do so many seminars. Two, it is a pretty large upfront investment, but typically the ROI is solid. And three, the game is changing in the sense that a lot of people prefer just virtual. Ever since COVID, as people get more comfortable with technology, they don't mind just consuming that same information digitally. But what seminars does such a good job of and why it's rated as an A tier is it educates and nurtures prospects. You're building trust, you're giving value, you're educating them, and therefore they're being attracted to you, even if you might do cold outreach to initially get them there. So I would rank this S tier if it wasn't so hard to scale and it wasn't so hard to put together, but the method and the strategy behind a seminar and why it works puts it up as an A tier. A lot of our clients, even when they're doing the digital side or other acquisition methods, still will utilize seminars. They might just do them slightly less, but they're a great old reliable way to generate clients, right? Now, moving on to strategic partnerships where maybe you are working with a CPA, maybe you have an attorney. This one is a method that a lot of advisors have utilized and a lot of advisors have done successfully. I am going to rank this as a B tier. Now, my reason for it being a B tier is because one, with say partnering with a CPA or with an estate attorney, it might work really well and it typically does, right? Until it doesn't. you are now reliant on their ability to attract clients, on their relationship that they have with you. And it's not really a acquisition method that one adds any value to your firm in the event of a sale or an acquisition, because what happens when you leave or you want to hire out staff and you no longer have that kind of relationship with that firm, right? Unless you really tight knit it. But also, it takes a lot of time to build these relationships. Maybe if you're an advisor who's just starting their firm, right, and you don't have a ton of these relationships, it's pretty hard to just magically create these strategic partnerships. Sure, you can do outreach, you can try and network, but again, there's a lot of variabilities and not a lot of structure to putting together this acquisition channel. Now, we are going to move on to cold DMs. And this is getting put in the D tier. This is your typical LinkedIn outreach or any kind of pretty much just LinkedIn outreach of DMing people. This is one of the most desperate ways to attract clients. You devalue your authority by so much by you going out. Not only are you manually sending it from your personal account, right? With a cold email or a cold call, you can kind of have someone do it or make it seem as if it's a firm effort. Cold DMs is you, whether you're the founder, whether you're, whatever it is at your firm, you are now reaching out to prospects, basically begging them to get on a call with you to try and close their business. One of the lowest possible or worst possible ways and lowest ROI ways to attract clients. Number one, it is not scalable at all. On LinkedIn, you can only send so many requests. I mean, sure, if you get Sales Navigator, you can do a little bit of extra work with that, but it's such low intent prospects and it takes so much time, and you are lowering your authority and status so much from the get-go that your close rate is going to be terrible. You're going to get a ton of no-shows, and overall, you're just going to have a terrible experience devaluing your authority as an advisor, right? So cold DMs are terrible. I would never recommend using cold DMs to attract clients. I've yet to find an advisor who actually sustainably has done cold DMs to scale predictably. Rather, maybe you'll find an advisor who gets a client or two from this, but it is a terrible way to do so. Now, radio and TV. I'm going to rate this as a B. Radio and TV is a very good way to get your name out there. It's more brand awareness. You are going out and maybe you're doing a talk show, maybe you got an advertisement on TV. It's a good way to get your name and brand out there. But a couple of things. One, it's very hard to attribute revenue or attribute clients from that because it's very hard to track where they came from and such. So you can't really dial in, hey, here's our cost per acquisition, here's our cost per booking, here's our ROI. So it's very hard to track, as well as it is very expensive to get into that, right? There's a lot of better ways where if you're going to invest those kind of dollars to do it where you can track the revenue and scale a lot harder. But nonetheless, it is not the worst way. It's a good add-on, right? And a key part is a lot of these strategies can be used in tandem with one another, and they benefit each other and there's synergies. But radio and TV alone is probably not the best way. It's not the worst way, but it is an expensive way that's hard to attribute the actual ROI to. Next on, we are going to move into pay-per-click ads. Now, this is your typical Google ads where your website pops up at the top and people can click and they go into that. This one is also going to be rated in the D tier. Now, the reason for this is it can work. The problem is, one, it is very competitive. You cannot outcompete your competitors, right? Like the smart assets who run PPC campaigns or the large firms that run PPC campaigns. You can't create a unique angle or unique marketing to outcompete them because PPC, pay-per-click, is based on how much you are willing to bid for a click. Smart Asset, Fisher, all these large firms, they're going to be able to outbid you most likely on a pay-per-click and still be able to survive, and they have the cash flow to back it. Therefore, you are playing a losing game trying to outbid them. You are basically saying, I'm willing to try and spend more dollars per click than these large firms to attract a client. You have no unique angles you can utilize, nothing to leverage there that helps you scale and outcompete these larger firms. Now, some firms who are a lot larger and they want to dabble into this, they can find results, they can generate clients, but in terms of ROI and the actual scalability of it, for most firms is very, very low. So I highly recommend staying away from PPC ads. They're just not a great way to scale. Next, the good old buying leads. And when I mean this, I mean working with a lead vendor. I mean buying just lists of leads or going to someone who runs, advertisements or marketing on their own pages and then basically gives you a lead. This one is going to be in the C tier, right next to cold calling and cold emailing. There are some lead vendors that will book those appointments onto your calendar, which helps. But a lot of times they're giving you leads. You're then once again having to go chase those leads. And whenever you chase a prospect for business, your ability to close that prospect drops so much because you have now shown that you are desperate. You need to chase business. You are not attracting it because of your value, your authority, your expertise. I always say, think of it as, say, a lawyer or a doctor, right? A doctor does not have to chase you for your business. You have a problem, the doctor can solve it. If a doctor came to you and said, hey, I'd really love to, got your information, would love to check in and see if you're healthy and if you need any help with anything. You'd be like, why are you reaching out to me? This is very odd. You expect the doctor to have that authority. Same thing with a lawyer. If a lawyer reached out and said, hey, I was wondering if you were having any legal issues and you needed my help. They don't do that because they are consultants. They have authority. And so buying leads, even if they're booking them onto your calendar, you're still somewhat chasing them. But additionally, your brand equity is getting destroyed. You are not getting any of that long-term benefit of getting your name, your brand, any of that out there for awareness, because they are the ones that are using your advertisement dollars to generate new prospects that builds their brand up while your brand gets nothing. And you are just the advisor who got the lead and is now chasing to win that prospect, a lot of times competing with the 4 other advisors that they had given those leads to. So buying leads, not a great method. Now, for social media ads, this is going to be in the S tier. Now, the reason for this being in the S tier is not because just social media ads alone. It very much determines the funnel you have equipped with it, the content you are creating, a lot of things. But I'm talking about a high-performing, well-put-together social media campaign. The reason being is, one, you can generate lower cost per acquisitions and bookings based on the quality of your content and your systems. So you have a competitive advantage because you can target a very specific type of person. You can create very tailored content, and we're leveraging so many of the different pieces from all of these different angles. For example, seminars, right? When we're looking at seminars, we are leveraging the fact that we are giving value and educating prospects because we have their attention captured. We're showing them why they're an expert, and we're not chasing. They're finding you organically in the feed. These are inbound prospects. And they're saying, man, this person knows a lot. I want to speak with them. So you're leveraging that. In terms of time and management, once you get it up and going, it is very streamlined. You don't have to invest a ton of time, and it's very scalable. All you have to do is increase your budget, and you're building brand equity. You're getting direct response leads. You can attribute all of the revenue, the ROI that you're getting. And again, it's not very saturated. Yes, you might see a lot of advisors running ads, but I'm talking about saturated in the extent that there are a lot of advisors doing it at a very high level. There's a lot of people dabbling and trying, but it is not done at the highest level, right? And the ROI is uncapped on this. You're building brand equity, you're getting direct response leads, and you can generate the exact type of prospect you want. So the quality of prospects is very high. So when we look at this, the main things and the reasons this is ranked this way and why we're ranking it as such is, one, we're looking at, are we doing inbound or outbound? Outbound is a terrible way to generate business. You are chasing prospects, you're lowering your authority and status. Inbound is a lot better because you are actually showing value and people are reaching out to you because they are interested. And that's why seminars, organic content, radio, TV, those are a lot better because you're bringing prospects to you. Then we look at what's the cost, right? Are we making sure that we're getting a solid ROI? That's going to be a big piece. And long term, in the advisory industry, everything always pans out over a longer time horizon because you're generating recurring revenues, it's compounding, you're getting market growth. That's a big piece. But we also have to balance that between the immediate cash flow return and what we're getting in the long term. So that's how we kind of look at, seminars, you're putting up a lot of money, you will recoup it. Social media ads, you don't have to put up as much and you can recoup it, right? When you start dabbling into, let's say organic content, you're not paying a ton, but you're banking on a long time of putting in effort, which costs money. Time costs money, right? And so again, the quality of prospects as well. So this is right now what is working best in terms of acquiring clients. And the reason seminars are still rated so high is because we are in a trust recession. People need to see the value you provide. They need to know why they should work with you. Seminars do a great job of educating prospects and showing them that value. And you can very similarly replicate that through social media ads and providing value and educating prospects. So I hope this one helped. Make sure to subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment if you've seen something different. Maybe if you found a lot of success with another method. Curious to hear what you've seen. But this is what we've seen working with all of our different advisors, all the systems we run and the data we have. And so I hope this helps when you're maybe getting your campaign set up, when you're starting to build your systems and scale your firm. We'll see you next time.